Hello, welcome back to my channel. It has been ages since I've done a video. I'm a bit out of practice, but today I am bringing you the hashtag 52 tag handmade challenge complete. I have finished all 52 tags. I'm really proud of myself that I actually kept going with this challenge. Some weeks were easier than others, but you know, now we reached the end, I'm really pleased. I like how they look on the side. I've left them like this just to see. I love seeing all the little bits and pieces, lace, wool, fabric, threads sticking out. I just love it. So I thought I would go fairly quickly through all 52 tags for you to see. Just check I'm in frame. So we started at week 1 with all white, which was very appropriate because it had snowed this week, I remember. So I put little beads on. I'm not sure if they'll catch up, show up rather. That reminded me of the doorstep, really full of snow, and that just made me think of a door, which I also thought was quite good for the new year. So that was number 1. Number 2 was all about a heart, so I just did a very simple heart there. Then we had number 3, which was scrappy. This was such a long-winded tag to do. Each piece of fabric, you can probably see on there, you folded it in half, sewed it down, put another strip in. There was so many strips. I mean, it's come out gorgeous and it's a lovely feel. And I wrote on here, I didn't write on many, but I did at the start, scrappy, which is how I feel life is at the moment, just scraps. I chose blue and grey as this is how I feel in January this year. But as I was stitching, I heard that today, the day I did this, is called Blue Monday. So they're nice little reminders. I wish really I'd written on more. Week 4 was fly stitch, and I decided to turn the fly stitch into a snowflake because obviously the snow had returned this week, and I just thought that was quite a good, effective, really showed up on the denim. Week 5 was an X or a kiss, so I did kiss and hugs and kisses and just put other things on there that I really liked. Week 6 was a bevy of buttons, so I just put lots of different buttons on this fabric that I thought went with that, and it was my friend Bev's birthday and I was thinking of her, and I've actually written that on the back of that tag. Week 7 was hexes, so I just did like different patchwork, which actually I did some of this at a vintage fair I went to with Bev a few years ago. I did some the correct way round and some inside out because I like that look. Week 8 was French knots, which I decided to do on this patterned paper that I'd got. So the French knots were just at the end of the long stitches, which I thought just added decoration to that flower. Week 9 was bits, pieces and a gift. So these were just bits and pieces I had. That was some bits and pieces of paper I had lying around. These were bits and pieces of fabric. And this was the gift. This was a bulb pin that I received as part of, I think it was a draw that I'd won, a giveaway on YouTube. I can't actually remember now. I should have written it down, shouldn't I? Then we had 2 weeks of almost like fried eggs. I've no idea how this happened. It's just funny to see what happens. Week 10 was the Suffolk puff, which was a yo-yo, and you had to put lace with it. So I did my Suffolk puff and the lace. My daughter then told me it looked like a fried egg, and I actually can't disagree with her. And then the following week, 11, was rings, and you basically had to get a ring of whatever it was. I can't actually remember what I used. You could use washers, or if you had a bigger tag, curtain rings. And this also, for some reason, had a fried egg feel about it. We moved away from fried eggs. Week 12, blanket stitch. So that was just all these different blanket stitches around this edge and this edge. And this fabric I chose because it is what old-fashioned 70s blankets used to be made from. Week 13 was layers, and I just layered up lots of different fabrics. No idea why, but I went back to the yellows and the whites, a bit egg style again. Week 14 was a treasure and a pocket. So what I decided to do on this was a pocket made out of fabric and just layer it up in the style I like. And my treasure is my family, and that was my treasure. That goes in that pocket. This was one of my favourite ones. I've got a few favourites, but I did like this week. It was fiddly. This was to be a tiny scape, which I chose to do the view from my living room window, which is of the Clent Hills. It looks like a patchwork of fields and then this big Clent Hill, and the sky was blue the day I did it, so I'm quite pleased with how that turned out. Week 16 was seed stitch. This actually took longer than it looks, and I'm not very pleased with how it came out. I tried to leave the negative space, which I did, but I think with the colours I chose it's a bit lost, but you know, that's what that week was. Week 17 was couching. Again, this took quite a while, but I'm quite pleased with the overall look, and certainly not colours I would usually use, so it's quite nice to see that. Week 18 was paper piecing, so I just used pastel colours of paper and then pastel stitching over the top. Week 19 resembles something from a horror movie, words. I decided to stitch my words on here, and I don't know why, but the font just came out looking like some kind of, I don't know, horror movie. Week 20 was the Pekingese stitch, which I just decided to do around the edge of here as a frame. 21 was the Bullion Stitch. I absolutely hated this stitch. I still hate this stitch, and I just cannot master it. So I've got knots which were full of swear words, I can tell you. Scraggy ends do not look like they should. The only ones that do is this one and this one, and even though they've come out as they should, I still hate them because they look like wiggly worms or caterpillars to me. 22 was layers of lace. I loved this, just getting out all my different laces. Week 23 was another one of my favourites, a bunch of flowers. I really enjoyed this. This was so much like, you know, traditional embroidery, which I really enjoyed. Did a freestyle pattern, I really enjoyed that, and I'm really happy with how it's come out. 24 was tatting. Can't tat, I don't have a tatting needle, so I crocheted mine, which I actually think gives the same effect. This was another one I love doing, weaving in my favourite colour of green. Love how that came out, and just nice to do a different technique. 26 was a medal. I decided to make mine like to use an old cotton thread there, just as the label as the bottom of the medal, and I typed out what this was, the tags challenge. 27 was beads and tassels. I managed to do all this beading. Again, that's not something I really do, beading, but I was pleased with how that came out. We then had the spider wheel, which is it spider wheel? Yes, spider wheel, which I turned into a rose, which I thought went really well with my backing fabric. Week 29 was Aught. This is basically all threads that you've used on previous projects, and you just actually then stitch them down, and that makes a tag by itself. Week 30 was a brooch. Not a lot to say about that. This was another one I really detested because I can't stand gold or bling or glitter or anything like that. This week, oh, it was gold. So yeah, just not keen on that. Much more like me, week 32 was daisy stitch. This is a stitch I really like, and I really like how this has actually come out with the green, the white and the yellow, the gingham. Just has a really fresh feel, which I think by now we were well into summer. Week 32. Week 33 was New Horizons. No, it wasn't. It was Flags or Bunting. I chose to put New Horizons on here, and I cannot remember why. There was a reason I chose that, but I can't remember what it was. Sadly, I should have written it on the back. This is another one. I love how it's come out because it's another thing of mine, cups of tea. The actual theme was a cup, but I decided to do cups, and I just love this stacked sort of effect of applique. Week 35 was 3 buttons and a special fabric. So these are my 3 buttons. This fabric is very special. I remember my mum making me and my sisters summer dresses out of this when we were really little in the 70s. Oh, There's a lot to go through. Week 36, slow stitch, lots of different slow stitching on there. Week 37 was fabric weaving, another week I loved. I love the fabrics I picked. Colours complement each other without being too matchy. Week 38 was reverse applique. This is where your shape is cut out, as opposed to week 39 where you had applique with your shape cut on. So your shape is put on and you stitch it on. This one you remove the shape. So that was those 2 weeks. Week 40 was something yummy, and for this I just picked fabrics that I love and this kind of cantha stitch, which I also find yummy. Sadly, bullion knots came, and actually I've put on the back bullion knots again, sad face, for week 41. I decided to try and use them as the centre of my flower. Still can't get the hang of them, still think they look like worms or maggots. Week 42 was a tag on a tag. I didn't really understand the point of this, and I think this was a week I wasn't really feeling it, so I just cut up one of my vintage hankies rather than doing any stitching. I really wasn't in the mood that week. Week 43 was a fringe, so I just did a fringe across the bottom of this embroidered hanky that I'd got, a different one to those. Cross stitch, just like that. I love red, white, navy, think it looks really lovely. This is another one I'm very proud of. This was week 45, which was fireworks. I think the colours I've chosen on the black fabric really looked like fireworks to me, and I really enjoyed this. Week 46 was wrapped. You basically wrapped a stick. I hope I've been in frame after all these, goodness me. 47 was a little birdie. This I really wasn't feeling it, and thankfully I'd got a bird button, so I just used that for that tag. Week 48, the snow returned, and this week it was sheaf stitch, so I decided to do it on blue, and I realised how much they look like snowflakes, which was perfect because this week the snow returned. This is probably one of my most sentimental tags that I made. This was week 49 and it was just memories, and I decided to do memories of Mom. By chance that this should come up this week. This was actually the week of the anniversary of my mum passing. So I chose to do things that were memories of Mom. So this was some thread that was in an embroidery that she'd obviously been doing, never got finished. It really breaks my heart to see unfinished projects that she'd done. She'd obviously tied all her thread to a card and had written on it, so that's actually her writing, orange. So I chose some more of the fabric that we used to, me and my sister, have our dresses done in, because that was orange. This was out of another unfinished project of my mum's, and she was obviously going to do patchwork, so she'd got as far as this, so I decided to stick that on. And then I'd got a sheet of words and I decided to put the word memories on there. So that is my absolute most sentimental tag. Nearly at the end. Week 50 was circles. I decided to do circle fabric with buttons, couldn't be simpler. Oh, this is another one I enjoyed doing, a wreath for week 51. I think that came out really Christmassy, using the fly stitch again, daisy stitch and French knots. And week 52 was a macrame tree. Never done macrame before, very much enjoyed it. Basically knotting lots of different pieces of wool or thread or string. I did wool, popped a button at the top, a bit of fabric as a pot, and I think that came out really quite good. I did obviously start this project on a ring, a book ring, but there are so many now that tags that just was not going to work. So I've popped some organza ribbon through. I'll have to re-thread that actually after. And then because I want to remember it, I just popped a little die cut tag there to remind me. So that is my 52 tag handmade challenge complete. I hope you've enjoyed my little flip through, and I will see you soon for some more junk journaling. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great new year. Bye bye.